Hello, everyone. This is unusual for me going solo, and I would appreciate some patience perhaps when I try and transition to certain things. But I've got a plan. It's going to be nice and organized. Seahawks tape, probably more organized than when it's me and Griff doing it, given, we like to cover the tape. And with just me, I have a bit more to focus in on. And Griff and I are our own worst enemies. We encourage each other. We're enablers. But thank you so much for joining live. In the chat, it would be really helpful if, I know you guys do it already, but if you have something you want to look at, if you have a play or a question or a topic, idea, that would be very, very useful. I'd appreciate that a lot. But our two main topics tonight are going to be looking at how the defense gave up two big plays against the Washington Commanders. And honestly, stuff like that's going to happen in the NFL. But depending on whether your viewpoint is glass half full or glass half empty, I think there's certain takeaways. So we'll talk about that, the Brian Robinson stuff. And I'm also going to explain how a sim pressure or creeper works, like the kind of schematic detail behind that jargon, explain why teams do it, and kind of the chess match behind how that happened to Seattle, at least the first time. The second time, we'll talk about that too. Then we're going to look at Geno Smith, specifically on the last two drives for the Seahawks offense, but honestly, I think there's a discussion to be had about his third downs and the offense's third downs, where the offense is at, and I'm going to sprinkle in some data as well. Jay, good to see you. Is there anything special about the 2 a.m. coffee? Extra strong, a splash of brandy? No. Although, I'm not really a fan of liquor in coffee. That's not really my jam. I like coffee. I like liquor. I could definitely have like a spirit, as I'd call it, on the side with a coffee, but mixed together, no, definitely not. And Jay, one mug for each hand. Well, the coffee's quite strong, so two mugs of it would be intense. I also should say I appreciate all of you for joining me during what's actually a good Thursday night football game. There's only a certain time in the day that I can really get this done. I could have done it earlier, but I want some people to be able to join live, and I appreciate that it's actually a good game. It's been a while, hasn't it? Bengals Ravens looks like a close one. So I'm going to retweet that I'm live, and then we'll get started. But like I said, please don't be shy in the chat. Thank you also to those of you who have been participating each week. I know it means a lot. And update on Griff, he's absolutely fine, just taking a break. And Ty couldn't be here tonight, but we're all good. We're good as a podcast. 1 second. Right. Here we go. I'll do this thing here, and then we'll begin. No one tell me to hit it, so here we go. Hitting it. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where it's Matty here riding solo to look at how the Seahawks managed to beat, yes, they did get a victory, beat the Washington Commanders in Week 10 of the NFL season. We've got two key topics for myself tonight. We're going to look at Geno Smith. We're going to look at how Geno Smith orchestrated two really nice drives at the back half of that game or end of that game. And not only are we going to look at that, we're also going to look at some of the problems that the offense is having. Third downs is still a problem. I'm going to use data to look at that. And then our other topic, we're going to look at the two big Brian Robinson plays that Seattle allowed, the scheme behind that, the chess match behind that, and whether you should be concerned about that. Because at first, especially after the game, I was like, something that should not happen in the NFL. How does that happen at the NFL level? But then when you watch the whole performance afterwards, you watch the tape back, the All-22, you're like, maybe they're going to be okay. So I'll talk through that as well. But before that, as we always do with these tape podcasts, we sprinkle in a bit of Seahawks news, and let me just transition on here nicely, hopefully. And the Seahawks news is the injury report. It's not bad news. It's fairly, considering how Seattle has been in recent weeks, it's actually fairly nice, isn't it? So John P. Boyle tweeted this out. Let me hide that. Bang, there we go. Seahawks injury report for Thursday. Tyler Lockett did not participate in practice with a hamstring injury, and Derek Young out with an abdomen. That's super disappointing for Derek Young. Obviously an undrafted free agent last year. It was really cool seeing the rookie get onto the field because he has that big frame. He has a blocking background. He came from a kind of wing tee, flex bone style offense where everyone has to block, everyone carries the football, and blocking's very important. And him getting on the field as kind of a big slot was a real kind of breakout thing. And you had John Schneider in the draft process. He was talking about how Young could actually, be the breakout guy this year when they just completed their 2023 draft. He was excited about him, clearly a favorite of Schneider's. But Jake Bobo's emerged onto the scene while Young's been dealing with this kind of hernia thing. I know it's listed as an abdomen, but, yeah. And, he came back, he got on the field, and he seems to have re-aggravated it. That's what Pete Carroll said. So that is a blow for him. And you just think, not only with an injury like that, the kind of physical toll on a player, but just the mental disappointment and sort of anxiety that causes must be really, really tough on someone. So that's, hopefully that can be resolved for him, because I know he'd have been so excited at kind of finding his way onto a team, not being drafted, finding his way onto the team, kind of carving out a role for himself. And then this year, just a disappointing start for him. Now, Tyler Lockett, hamstring injury, and also didn't participate in Wednesday's practice with a hamstring. I mean, he's a veteran player, and you'll notice on Wednesday, as often happens, Jamal Adams, Leonard Williams, and Jordan Brooks have a designation of resting player down there, non-injury related, although two of them also have an injury next to it, so fine. It does happen that the veterans earn themselves some rest, but the way that Tyler Lockett is listed as a hamstring, and there's no NRR, there's no resting player designation, that does imply that he is in a bit more bother, and that would put Seattle's offense in a big issue. I know Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of is in that kind of more slot Lockett mold. He would be able to get some of the usage that Lockett does get. That being said, he's no Tyler Lockett, and Lockett's kind of ability to win on the outside, which JSN's yet to prove, yet to really work at in the NFL either, because, he's a rookie, he's focusing on his role. That would be hard to replace. Might mean Jake Bobo, who does have surprisingly good quick separation skills on the outside, could kind of carve out some more snaps. But, I mean, hopefully Lockett's okay. Hopefully that's just some caution. I mean, everyone at this point in the season is dealing with stuff. I'm surprised how light this injury report is. They only have to list it if it's a real problem for the player. Everyone's dealing with stuff. Football is very physical, very violent, and these guys do get... It's the classic hurt or injured thing. Good to see Jamal Adams not missing practice. He's a limited participant, but they're just being careful with that. I'm sure he will play. He mentioned after that game, the most recent game, how his knee is really painful for him as games progress, and how he is pleased that the game didn't go into overtime. So another example of what these players put themselves through. Colby Parkinson with a biceps injury, interesting. I know the tight end group's pretty solid. It was interesting seeing them use more multiple tight ends this past week. And then Abraham Lucas making his way back at right tackle. They're just taking it easy with him. Wednesday, Thursday, seeing how he handles stuff. I don't know how much to read into that Thursday thing. I know Pete Carroll's been asked about Lucas making his return to right tackle. It's going to be something to monitor. He just says that they're going to take it cautious, but is it a bad thing that he's limited on a Thursday? Should he be a full participant if he's going to play on Sunday? Possibly. I'm not so sure. The other factor is that as well is 41-year-old Jason Peters signed as kind of the emergency measure when Lucas went down, or didn't go down, but his knee became really painful, something he'd been managing all through the off-season too. Peters played really, really well, and he played over 60% of the snaps on Sunday. He's kind of beat out Stone Forsyth to that role, it seems like. Much more, I mean, the technique of Peters as a veteran, multiple Pro Bowler, pretty sure he's been named an All-Pro too. The kind of contrast of that and just the further development of him is super, super apparent. So that's kind of a sneaky addition for Seattle. I think really where Peters kind of, not only is he not the athlete that he once was, of course, but where I think the kind of, not negative, but and it's unfair to call it a weakness, but his lesser strength is in the run game. I think that's where it shows up. And remember Jake Curhan in back half of 2021, he was mauling guys on the backside of runs at right tackle and displacing dudes. He might be bizarrely their best run blocking right tackle, but he kind of lost himself the right tackle job from a pass protection standpoint. He's been working in at right guard. But yeah, I mean, that's an encouraging injury report, isn't it? The fact Jordan Brooks with his knee, full participant today, and Damian Lewis, Anthony Bradford, full participants too. Very good. Michael Dixon with a right hamstring. You don't want your punter getting hurt. Right, as I have my coffee, 2:17 a.m., let's check in on the chat. Cameron, solo stream tonight. It is indeed. Which tells me, Cameron, you missed the preamble, which is fine. Does this mean we heckle Matty more? Well, honestly, I haven't noticed much heckling going on. Now, maybe it's because everyone who's heckled me has been banned. And there's no one here to stop me. There's no checks and balances, are there? Griff not here, Ty not here. So I'd just, I'd watch out. As Jen points out, Mad King Matty. Absolutely, Jen. Jay, I have to admit, I was surprised that it was the most yards Gino's ever thrown for. I was also surprised we had nearly 500 yards of total offense. The offense didn't feel that good in real time, says Jay. Jay, yeah. And also, Jay, I think that's what yards after catch does, isn't it? Like, I forget the exact figure, but they had over 200 yards after the catch on Sunday, and that'll do that. It really was fits and starts, and I'll explore why that was. Adam Thompson. Hey, this is a good... this is a solid way to kick off the tape segment. Adam says, Diggs was way out of position on the first quarter touchdown to Brian Robinson. Why he's on the right side of the field playing that shallow is beyond me. Watch 17 for Washington on that play also. Adam, I'll explain why that was. Diggs wasn't out of position, but I'll explain why, because I understand how when you're kind of cycling it through, you're just watching one player, you're seeing where the ball's gone, you're like, oh, that's big yikes. I'll explain why it looks like he's out of position, but he wasn't. And that's the other thing, Jen. You want to see Kenny McIntosh. Of course, he's made his way back, hasn't he, from his injury, but there's just no room for him. Like, all the running backs are Touchwood staying healthy. Charbonnet's looking like an absolute amazingly efficient second round pick, He, is vying, why my mind went to first there, is he's vying to be ahead of Kenneth Walker, like with the efficiency and Walker's kind of stop-start, boom-bust nature. Can you get Walker to still hit big plays if you give him less volume? And of course, Seattle doesn't they don't run the ball that often. They're kind of passing over expected on a lot of their plays. So yeah, it's hard to work in McIntosh, and versus like a player where, say, like a linebacker body type, a lighter running back. If you're thinking their way onto the roster is special teams, you either need to have really, really solid speed, or really, kind of that height, weight, speed blend needs to be a bit more unique than other people. And in terms of McIntosh, he's never going to be even for his position at running back, he's just not going to be that. So, Jay, I'll answer that offense question in a second. Yeah, that's right. JK, exactly. Okay, so defense. What's Lamar Jackson got hurt and Joe Burrow got hurt? Like, how hurt? I saw the Mark Andrews injury was awful. Damn. It would be nice if this, if the NFL season wasn't completely derailed by injuries, especially Lamar, because Lamar's having an unbelievable season. I mean, after that Seahawks game, I was like, this guy should probably be the MVP. Burrow can't grip the ball. Thank you, Jordan. Well, that's the thing. He's had that finger thing he's been dealing with, right? But oh dear. Okay, so while that's not our thing to worry about, let's go to the defense. So if I just bring that up. So the two big plays they gave up to Brian Robinson is what we're going to look at. That was a 51-yard touchdown play and a 48-yard gain, and it happened basically on the same concept for Seattle. So we're going to talk about why it happened and whether you should be concerned about it, whether I'm still concerned about it. So let me just get that full screen. That's probably the best we can get. Or I could get my pen up. Is that not going to work? Appreciate the patience here. Perfect. There we go. Right. So first one was a 2nd and 8, and they've been managing the game pretty well. Now, this is the play that I believe it was Adam was talking something about Diggs, so we'll watch him as well. But Washington starts with a tight end out here. Because there's a corner over the tight end, that tells them they're going to be facing a form of zone coverage. Because if it was man-to-man, Seattle would probably choose to have a safety type body or a linebacker type body, man on the tight end, to free up their corner to play man on a receiver. So big kind of classic NFL, especially offensive tell, is having these tight ends out wide. John, I will get to your question. I see that. So they shift him in line. Now, a big thing that Seattle does here, in every game, and I spoke about with Mark Bullock in our preview of this game, is they will send the nickel off the slot like that. So they're going to slant inside here to accommodate that with the 3-tech to the nickel side. This is also a tight end here. They've chosen to set their front over to this tight end, not this one. Remember, he started out here, so it wasn't that obvious. And I believe this is more of a blocker type. So they've set the strength over here. Here's the 3-tech, nickel over front, and they're going to send Jamal Adams. Now, typically, when Seattle blitzes their nickel, they play 2 deep, 4 underneath. So 2 deep, 4 under, or 3 deep, 3 under, but the key being is it's a split safety coverage. So this safety has this side of the field, this safety has this side of the field, this part of the field is open. on this side of the field, this guy, and this guy are playing the coverage over to this guy, and this guy. And then on this side of the field, this guy, and this guy are playing the coverage over to this guy and this guy, okay? So split safety deal, and they have the options of playing different coverage, which can end up looking like 2 deep, 4 underneath players, or 3 deep, 3 underneath players, but the split safety deal. So I believe it was do we remember the Detroit game where Trey Brown had his interception? He said how the safety put him in cover 2. I believe these two and this guy communicate on what coverage they're going to play. So they have the choice of playing cover 2. You can see my amazing writing. Or cover 4. So if it was cover 2, this guy would play in the flat. This guy would play deep half. If it's cover 4, this guy would play in a quarter. This guy would play in a quarter flat. If it was cover 2, this guy would play a bit tighter to wall the middle more. This guy would play a deep quarter, okay? So you can see how you could end up with it being 3 deep, 3 underneath players, because there's deep guy, deep guy, deep guy. But if we just play both sides cover 2, then it's 2 deep and then the 4 underneath players. Now, in these two here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Now, Washington knows that Seattle likes to do that. And this is kind of a case of, I know what you're doing. And then it's for Seattle, it's a case of, well, I know what you're doing. So if we just play through, Seattle blitzes Jamal Adams and Washington releases their running back. The idea being that if this guy's going to rush, 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 this guy's going to rush. In terms of the coverage, if we run something like this, let me make that a different color. So if we run something like this, they're not going to be able to cover these 3 guys out into the middle. These 3 here. Because Seattle only has these 2 in this area of the field. Now, when we... as I play that through... Imagine Boye Maffei's not here. So just rub this out here. Imagine he doesn't exist. You can see how there's an area. If Brooks was going out here, then there'd be an area here and here where this guy is here, this guy's here. They wouldn't have enough people for the 3 stretch, the triangle. They only have 2 for the 3. So in terms of the coverage that Seattle usually runs, which we call a fire zone, that is a way of beating it by releasing this guy out here. Now, in terms of the coverage in a fire zone as well, these 2 players would be responsible for walling the inside. So they'd be responsible for looking towards this number 2 receiver, looking towards this number 2 receiver, and denying them the middle of the field, because these guys are on the 1, this guy here, and this guy here, and these guys are the deep players, whether they're playing a quarter or perhaps they're playing a half. So these guys generally would be responsible for finding that number 2 and preventing them from getting to where this space is here. But Washington's saying, I know what coverage you're in. We're going to throw it to this running back out into the flat. and you're not. Brooks is going to have to either go out here, or if he doesn't go out here, it's 3 yards to beat the pressure. And Jen, that is why they call it a fire zone beater, yes. But Seattle's saying, well, I know what you're going to do. Well, before that, actually, let's look at the protection scheme. So Washington decides to Washington slides to the correct way as well. But the point being, though, with the coverage, Seattle likes to run behind this pressure. Say if this is coming as well, this is the beater, as I've stated. So Seattle's saying, well, I know what you like to do, which is Washington always releases this guy out into the flat. They run their running back out into the flat a lot, very quickly, not even part of the pass protection, immediately releasing out, which we call a fast 3, because if I go back a second, if we count up the receivers, 1, 2, 1, 2, this is the third guy. Washington loves to release this guy fast, and they would have had Seattle's coverage beat. But Seattle's saying, well, I know what you like to do, so I'm going to rush this guy, but if this guy releases on a route, he's going to peel off his rush and cover this route here, which is what Boye Mafe does. So, perfect. Now, if we look at this side, which Adam asked about, you can see how Quandre Diggs rolls down. You can see here, Witherspoon makes like a kind of like a clamping gesture with his hands, which I think means over on this side of the field, they're playing, they're reading the number 2. I think they're playing basically tighter to these two receivers. But Diggs is basically responsible for keying the QB. He knows kind of what combination he's getting. He knows they like to do slant flat like this. And he is right in this slant window when the quarterback looks there and sets up. So as you stop here, Diggs is right in this slant window. That's a hospital ball / a pick. And I believe Spoon is reading this guy out. And if this guy breaks out, I think he's going to trigger on the football into the flat. Well, he definitely would break on the ball to the flat. But I was wondering if it was a palms type of read. The way to tell if it's palms really is to see if they mirror the release of this number 2. You can see here, I think Spoon is reading 2. As soon as 2 is flat, he's throttled down. But the quarterback also looking this way inspires that of a short drop. Because with a short drop like that, you know the ball's coming out. So, in answer to the question, I saw it got posted on Reddit as well, of whether Diggs was beat here. He is not beat. He's seeing that the quarterback is looking to throw immediately out here. He is reading the number 2, I believe. If the 2 is out like this, then Spoon is jumping the route. Diggs has to play to the 1 because Spoon ain't going to be over here, is he? But he knows the ball's coming out, so Diggs basically knows I need to get in the slant window. That's where the ball's going, and he'll have also studied what they like to do. So the coverage on this side of the field is brilliant, and you could say, and I believe Howell is probably reading this to throw here and then here. You could say he could throw to the flat, but that's going to get rocked, or with the way that Witherspoon breaks on stuff and can play the football, it's dangerous, isn't it? So he's forced to clutch the football here. So the coverage over here on this side, he's moved off the ball here. So Diggs may look, he's not even beat here, but it may look like 17 Terry McLaurin gets open. He gets open completely out of structure, completely away from Diggs's coverage responsibility. If Howell was able to work all the way back here, that is a crazy play, a complete broken play, where you're like, fair play, that credit to you. But really, in terms of the structure of the play, the guy responsible for McLaurin is Bobby Wagner. You see how immediately Bobby Wagner, as soon as the ball is snapped, he gets his eyes out to find the innermost receiver because he's responsible for walling that middle of the field. So he is looking for this number 2 who's out. So the new number 2 is this guy here. So it's really Bobby Wagner playing with zone eyes when he saw the quarterback was setting up. And what we're ignoring on this play as well, and I'll talk about now, is typically Seattle, when they blitz their nickel, they will slant and slant like that. But on this play, they slant the 3 technique, Leonard Williams, keep the end outside and put Jamal Adams through the B gap. You can see how that messes with their blocking scheme. Here's Leonard Williams. He steps down and the guard steps down with him. Meanwhile, the tackle has to stay outside for Draymond Jones. So you can see here that B gap is super, super wide. That's the kind of the impact of Leonard Williams. He's just such a big presence. I'll have a video coming out on him tomorrow. So watch this pick. And then Adams just whiffs, and he took accountability for that. He has to make the sack. It's almost too easy for him. That's poor. Like, you have to make that sack. And he was the first to acknowledge that. So disappointing. So we've talked about a fire zone. We've talked about how the coverage on this side of the field is really, really good. Wagner does a good job getting outside, or maybe he could have been a more aggressive matching up, but he knows kind of what type of quarterback it is. If this is Mahomes looking to throw back across his body, maybe Wagner does man turn with McLaurin down the field. But the coverage on this side of the field did a great job, and Jamal Adams should have got his sack. But you see here, the concept's dead, and Howell, after looking out there, immediately is like, I need to go here. But this is a beautiful 3/2 triangle with pressure. Now, why would Seattle... Now, the reason they're peeling with this route is because they know that beats the coverage. But this is where I get a bit concerned. So, typically... And this is something which is shown up as well. So, the details of this play, to me, don't quite make sense. So, watch Jordan Brooks, and we don't know what the communication was between this guy, and this guy. But Jordan Brooks plays as though they're playing cover 4 on this side of the field. So this guy's got the quarter, this guy's got the number 2, and Brooks, if 3 is out like that, needs to run with the wheel route, okay? That's how he plays it. Now, you see how he gets outside with that. He doesn't really acknowledge that this is the number 2 who, if we were playing a fire zone coverage, he would be responsible for not letting go to the middle of the field. He plays as though he's playing that route. Now, essentially, one of Maffei or Brooks has to be in the middle of the field, because if you play it through here, if this guy is wide open, that's not the safety's responsibility. He's still the deep player, even though he's kind of playing this this guy deep. Okay, Brooks got in the slant window, but we've got a player out there. Ultimately, the structure of the coverage, either Brooks should be here or Maffei. Now, there's 2 ways of Seattle running a pressure concept. So they're sending Jamal Adams, they're sending these guys. There's 2 ways of them sending pressure while of covering, while pressuring. So with just 4 people. So there's a bonus fire zone way, which exists in 3 deep, 3 under stuff, like cover 3 fire zones, where everyone here, not him and him, would play fire zone, And then Seattle to the passing strength, which is this side, because there's 3 guys here and only 2 guys here. Everyone to the... and then the guy to the passing strength drops into a bonus hook. So his job is basically covering grass while everyone else is playing a more aggressive form of zone coverage, okay? Now, if that's the case, and that's how you want to run the play, then Maffei wouldn't peel off on his rush like he does. Look, he begins by rushing, sees the back out and peels. But that would be one way of doing it, where you drop him into this middle hook and you have Brooks play the back, and it basically plays out like man-to-man on this side of the field with the help in the more of the middle of the field. But Seattle appears to be doing it that they're going to peel here, they're going to play man here, and they're going to play man here. So I've no idea why Jordan Brooks feels compelled to flare out side here. You end up with 2 people on the same route and no one... structurally, the play is weak in the middle of the field. Bobby Wagner plays like he's walling the middle. Brooks does not recognize that there's this number 2 here. He plays like he's got the back as well. And he plays like he doesn't understand or hasn't heard that Maffei's got the peel on this running back. And so that doesn't really make sense to me. That's one of the kind of details which is concerning to me. Now, secondly, the second thing which is concerning to me is here, they will have installed this type of play for they'll have walked through this, they'll have talked it through, they'll have had meetings on it. They've run this kind of peel concept in the past when it's been cover 1. They're playing man-to-man defense, but also when it's this kind of middle field open, split safety, sending the nickel as well and running it like a creeper or a sim pressure, just sending 4 guys peeling the edge. They've done that before as well. I don't know why he feels at this point like he doesn't have to carry the wheel all the way down the field. I don't know why he feels like he has to come down. I get it's the natural reaction, but it again is kind of a misunderstanding or a lack of details of the coverage where he needs to know that Woolen's clamping on this receiver, the safety's playing more on 2, and that Brooks is kind of the spare player in the coverage. Brooks kind of has the quarterback contained. But why I mentioned these 2 players is there is no one down this sideline area. And, if you're peeling off, you would just man turn and run with the wheel. But even if you're the curl flat player in cover 3 or the quarter flat player in cover 4, a lot of the time, the second guy through your zone, you have to run down the field with and play it. So for him to even think about looking back at the quarterback rather than keying the hip of the receiver is slightly odd to me. It's kind of a lack of an awareness. Now, Brooks, after going outside and leaving this tight end open to start off with, he then goes to the quarterback, which I think is correct, but it's just those kind of patchy details that they've got 2 guys on 1 here, they don't have a guy here. I don't really know how this happens in the NFL at week 10 in a season. Hopefully I've explained that as succinctly as I could live, trying this for the first time. If you've got any questions, please do ask them in the chat. Let me just catch up. Jay says, B-Wags seemed to be average at best in coverage. Wasn't Brooks dealing with a lingering hammy problem? I thought he had a ding that slowed him down a bit. So, I mean, B-Wags is very, very aware in coverage, and he has all that veteran experience in Nous. His problem is just the kind of the movement skills, and then the way that kind of the way he plays sometimes, just like technique-wise, in terms of the assigned technique, is very kind of low maintenance, and it can leave holes in coverages that, if you had more athletic ability, you might be able to play more aggressive. And then that in turn has to be accommodated by the players either side of him. Gord, thank you very much for the questions. I appreciate it, and thanks for the donation. It is complicated and glorious. Jay says, how much has Maffei been asked to drop into coverage this year? Was this just a mistake due to inexperience? Yeah, obviously, Jay, they don't drop their outside linebackers much. Remember when Clint Hurt came to Seattle and was saying how they were never going to drop? Well, here this is because Washington likes to get the football out fast. They have fairly spread formations. Seattle wants the pressure and kind of change the picture for the quarterback, force a mistake, and they want to remove a quick beater. Really, this kind of, it's classic coach talk, and I have been accused of saying that, the defense can never lose if they execute, but if everyone had executed here, this is a dead play, isn't it? I mean, they do a good job here, but even with Adams missing, imagine if Brooks is here, there's nowhere to go with that football. They've killed the play with how they pressured and then peeled off that side. But Jay, yeah, you're absolutely right that it could be due to an experience. It's definitely a kind of unfamiliar situation in terms of we almost got a sack, quarterbacks broke the pocket. Now my guy is in the flat. How do I cover a wheel? That's unfamiliar. But to me, Jay, it's the type of thing, and again, they might have covered it. For instance, in that Detroit Lions game where they gave up 4 verts when they're playing cover 3, I went back through the pictures of the meeting room, and the safeties were covering how to play that concept a lot in their meetings, because there was a picture of them studying a New York Jets play versus the Lions, and the Jets are playing a similar form of cover 3 match to what Seattle does against 4 verts and how they match seams versus 2x2 receiver sets. So they went through it in the week. They just messed it up on the day, and that will happen too. No one is perfect. We all mess up at our jobs, don't we? So that's part of it. Now, that all being said, it can happen once, right? And Jay, to your point, this is a kind of this is definitely a coming from a place of inexperience, but it can happen once. But what if it happens again? And it did, didn't it? So here's the 2x2 formation. Now, on this play, Seattle... Oh, is this the right play? Yes. So on this play, here's the tight end. It's a spread formation. Seattle sets their 3-tech to the tight end. This is the same play in that they're bringing the nickel. It's just that the B-gap bubbles to the other side because the nickel goes to the passing strength, which is this side, where the most receivers are. And the 3-tech goes to the tight end. So on some plays, 3-tech will be on the same side as the nickel. On other plays, the 3-tech and the nickel will be opposite sides to each other. So as we play this through, you see how Spoon blitzes, not the best blitz here, but if he had actually not got caught up with his receiver, the B-gap's opened up again. They've actually slid the wrong way. So, well, not the wrong way, but I'll just cover the protection first. Yeah, so they've decided to slide out here. So the man side of the protection is over here, and the zone side is here, and the back is releasing. So Sam Howell knows he is hot off anyone off this side because there's one player here, there's 2 here. We have... Sorry, let me do different colours for you. 1, 2, 1, 2. He knows if a third player, if a third player comes, if we're releasing the running back out, we only have 2 over on this side of the field. So he needs to find his beater, which generally would be the running back. Unfortunately for Seattle, as we play it through, imagine if Spoon blitzes in the B gap. Well, he does, but imagine if Spoon doesn't get caught up. That's a wide B gap, and Maybe the guard would have seen it better. Maybe the receiver purposely tangled up. I don't think so. Spoon kind of got caught disguising. But essentially, the offense has wasted 1-2 people out here for just the one dude here, because there's Jones peeling off with the hot route. So if I go back to this angle here, this is the hot route, ideally, because they've only got the 2 out here. Seattle's bringing that third player here. And, you know, these guys would usually match up here. So as I play it through, because Seattle covers it really well, even without the blitz getting home, Howell still has nowhere to go with the football. Notice on the play, Jordan Brooks plays tighter. He doesn't, implying that he made a mistake on the previous play, but we don't know because this is a slot receiver now, not a tight end. It is a tight end, but he's aligned in the slot. So if you watch the coverage, Brooks looks to stay, kind of reroute this guy to his safety who's reading the number 2, and he plays tight to the hash. Woolen's in a deep quarter, and he's got this guy covered. Bobby Wagner's walling this crossing route. There's nowhere to go with the football because Draymond Jones has peeled off in his rush. So watch Draymond Jones. He started rushing, his back release, so he peels off with it. So there's nowhere to go with the football, even though Seattle ended up, well, they only rushed 3 players, really, because of Witherspoon. He kind of got caught trying to disguise, I think, from depth, which did mean that the B gap opened up wide, but it also meant he didn't get there. So kind of a lesson for him. But they still get good pressure and cover everything up downfield, Russian coverage. They don't have a contain here because of Draymond Jones peeling off, but Witherspoon was about to make the play for probably 1 yard, 2 yards. But then, how does this happen again? Surely when you coach up, like, hey, Maffei, that was unfortunate what happened on that play. Just remember, when a play breaks down, Jordan Brooks, he can go get the quarterback, but we're run off on your side of the field. We're playing quite aggressive cover 4. We've got this guy occupied. We've got our safety occupied on the 2 deep. There's no one out here. So really, if he starts to bend upfield, you've got to just man-turn with him and let someone else worry about it. I don't understand how that conversation hasn't happened on the sideline. Maybe it did, and Jones just had a moment of, oh, I haven't played so much outside linebacker. And even when I did it when I was in Denver, we didn't peel off as often that often. But I just don't understand this mess up. But that's how it happens, where everyone else was right, but just one player got a bit too hungry for the quarterback. Didn't play with the right eyes, which is often a problem in football. Really, he should be, as soon as this happens, he should get his eyes and plaster this guy down the field. And Howe makes an impressive play. So that's unfortunate. And to me, at the time, I was very, very concerned. And again here, poor details from Leonard Williams here, cannot take this inside move. It's like he didn't realize that Jones was peeling. He should be containing the pocket. They're sliding towards him. I think he thinks, generally when you get the slide towards you, you take a step upfield and through the inside pad of the guard to prevent the guard being able to look for work. You want to be the A-gap push player, but through the guard to force the center to try and double you, but prevent the guard from padding back or becoming a free player. But he has to understand there's no edge here, so really, in a playbook, his path would be more contain on pass. And John, it is a tough ask for Draymond Jones to be asked to turn upfield with a wheel route. Absolutely. But the whole point is, John, firstly, there wouldn't be enough time for this to turn into a wheel, really, if Spoon had actually managed to get through in his B gap. So the pressure's killing that it's making that a assignment easier on the Peel player. But secondly, if he doesn't do it, no one else is going to. If he'd put himself in with the right eyes in the right position, it makes it still a tougher window throw and far less open if he turns and runs upfield. He's still an outside linebacker. Well, Draymond Jones isn't quite, but generally Seattle's outside linebacker types should be able to do that. Like, just imagine if he's just body position looking this way, Howe just keeps the football, and Spoon probably makes the tackle. So yeah, I just don't think the lack of the details is a bit weird to me. And it's something that I have seen with other things where Seattle's had a problem play, and it's not really it's the players not executing, but it kind of gets me concerned about the coaching, because I'm like, how is that not being translated to the players after it's happened once? You know, how are they made the very similar error? And you do have to bring up communication. I see Jack in the chat, you point out a miscommunication between Williams and Jones. Yeah, I think on that first play we saw as well, I think Jordan Brooks didn't seem to think that the edge was dropping to his side. So, but that's concerning to me as well, because if you want to be a really good defense, you all have to be on the same page, and or big plays happen, don't they? Now, that said, while I was concerned about it at the time, and don't get me wrong, I am still concerned about it, what I'd say is overall the defense played a damn good game. Those two plays were killers. Then on those last two Washington drives, Howell threw some miracle footballs. Eric Bieniemy schemed up some excellent beaters and for Seattle's coverage, and just caught Seattle in a coverage at the right time after trying for the whole game and not really doing that. So I would be encouraged overall about the Seahawks defense still. They were clamping guys up, and Howell was getting moved around. And the other thing to me about the Seattle's defense, which kind of emerges from this game, I don't think they're doing that much. And what I mean by that is, if you think of the playoffs and your playoff defensive scheme as your like 100% mode, or your fully fleshed out defense, your fully fleshed out structure, you have hyper specific ways of attacking an offense, I'd say Seattle's about a quarter of the way to that point. They're doing quite a lot of stuff. They're not basic. They're doing quite a lot of stuff. This is quite a not advanced, but it's a different layer, a layered up version of a concept. But they're not fully they're not fully into it yet. They're kind of being quite specialist. They're not being specialist. They're sort of running their stuff, figuring out kind of what they're best at. If anything, the fact they're doing so much things, to me, says they haven't quite found yet, and I think this happens in the season, they haven't quite found yet what they want to be really good at or what they're best at yet. I think they're still kind of working that out. And, they've only played 9 games. Now, there's a certain point where they will have to work it out. Maybe it's this Sunday against the Rams, where it's the second time facing someone. They tried to do so many things week 1 against the Rams, particularly on third down, where they struggled. They might kind of simplify and strip back. Often in a season, Pete Carroll's defense is 1, they improve, but 2, their improvement comes from a simplification. Now, Seattle's doing a lot of things, although they're running, I don't want to contradict myself, although they're running primarily one front. So I think that they've kind of stripped back the front already to start off the season. Maybe they could add complexity there. But in terms of their kind of coverage structures and stuff like that, I think there's a simplification and a kind of honing in that could happen. For instance, on the front stuff, there's been 9 snaps all season of nickel bear against the New York Giants. That's something they've kind of got in their toolkit, which they haven't unfurled, they haven't really used. So that's a way that they could change the picture. If they saw the Ravens again, which, there's only one game that could happen in, and there's a lot which would have to happen for that to take place. But if they saw a team like that again, where a quarterback caused them running problems, against Baltimore, it's telling to me how much they got into base bear, even against formations which were like nickel worthy, like multiple wide receivers out there, or 3 wide receivers, I should say, to try and stop Lamar Jackson. But what I also mean by kind of being into the details of these fronts and the details of plays is like with nickel bear, there's a lot of kind of coaching and details that has to go into that. Like even in the base bear, which they did against Baltimore, they look really rusty in those approaches with certain concepts. Like players weren't playing 100% full speed versus when they're in the nickel over front that we've just seen here when they're fitting the run. Everyone plays with a clear kind of, this is what I do when I get this type of block. They're all really kind of dialed in at the level that it takes to be at in the NFL, where everything goes 100 miles an hour and you have to be exactly right. So just circling it back to the play we looked at, maybe that's a case of they need to just do it more. But I just don't understand, the teaching of the concept, I think, could be cleaned up slightly. Fats, thank you very much. Do you think, thank you for your donation. Do you think Seattle will take $5 to hire me? they might do. I don't know. Right, so offense. Let me just have some coffee. How are we doing, chat? Is there anything you want to look at? I see it's halftime in the Ravens-Bengals game. What are the quarterbacks okay? Right. So let's try this. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. I'm glad you do learn. That's kind of the aim. But as long as it's entertaining and engaging and not too boring, because that would be bad. Thank you for the donation. Right. So let's talk Seahawks offense, specifically from last game. Now, we've already talked about at the start of the show, maybe before we started recording, I can't remember, it's been a long show, it's just me. We talked about how the offense didn't feel like they'd gone for as many yards as they ended up getting. And I kind of said how I think that was mainly due to the yards after catch numbers. Now, on the season, there are some themes emerging, and there are some themes that I don't really acknowledge as well. So I'll start with that, and then we'll look at what changed on the last 2 Seahawks drives, how Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense were able to march down the field and win the game. So, firstly, I saw some people engaging with this chart from throw the damn ball. It's how often quarterbacks throw to the middle of the field and their EPA on those throws. Took me a while to find Geno Smith on this chart because Geno Smith is over here. So while Seattle's EPA on middle of the field throws is over 0.4, so fairly high if you think it's definitely top 10, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in EPA on middle field throws. The percentage of dropbacks with passes to the middle of the field is low. If Jared Goff, who you'd think is in a kind of similar offense, although he's not, and we saw them spam so many middle of the field throws against Seattle, didn't we? But, he's in that McVay tree thing. He's over 50%. Let's say that's 52%. Geno Smith is at 26%, 27%. So quite the discrepancy there. He's actually, is he tied with Kenny Pickett for the least middle of the field drop back passes in the league? At least per data from PFF and Throw the Damn Ball. Now, my issue with that is, what is the middle of the field? Because that could be a really big area, and I would be interested, and if I was prepared, I'd have reached out to, I believe it's Judah. I'd have reached out to Judah and said, hey man, what is the middle of the field? Because, is it inside the numbers or what? Now, why I'd be curious is if we look at this tweet from Nate Tice, which is of The Athletic, who's been on the show, friend of the pod, endorsed the show. He tweets out a heat map, and I appreciate for the audio listener, if you haven't switched off already, because we've been covering some tape, this is still difficult. But this is Geno Smith's heat map using Pro Football Focus data. And looking at this, I mean, that's the middle of the field getting absolutely peppered. And like very middle, the kind of 5 to 10 yard range to 15 yards, right? And this portion. So I think I just wanted to talk about that and how I don't think Seattle's offense has an aversion to middle of the field passes. Those crossing routes to Jackson Smith and Jigba on that third down pickup. Then later in the game, they hit Tyler Lockett on one on like mesh wheel. They were fun, weren't they? Because of how open they were. Just the nature of defense Washington's playing. They've run mesh all season, actually, which kind of explains this type of thing. If you think at what point mesh gets thrown, along with kind of checkdowns to the flat. This is like, I'd say, the rifling in like the in between the hooks of cover 3, that kind of sit down choice sort of route. But yeah, I think Seattle would target the middle of the field more if they had like kind of pass protection to do it. I don't see them not like running routes in that area. Me and Griff have looked at maybe they could bend routes over the middle a bit more. Sometimes they kind of snap them off straight when they could bend around the top of like a hitch route or a dig route or a stick route on like a bent dig kind of pattern. But in the main, I don't really think it's a thing. So, as this chart kind of shows. Now, one thing I do 100% buy into is this chart here from Stephen Patton Analytics. Starting quarterback's ability to mitigate negative plays. Now, interestingly, negative play rate, and let's get rid of Kyler Murray because he's played one game. Geno Smith is 5th in negative play rate, with 7.10% of his plays being negative plays. That includes interceptions, sacks, and fumbles. Ahead of Geno is Jared Goff. Ahead of Geno, is Matt Stafford first, then Jared Goff, Derek Carr, and Joe Burrow. Now, I think, there's always a statistic in favor of a player, isn't there? But there's always a conversation around Geno as a guy who, well, I've seen it that on the timeline this year as a guy who is likely to turn the football over, a guy who puts the ball in harm's way. But this honestly matches the eye test for me, and I imagine negative play rate is they're working these out via. No, not the eye test. Interception worthy, sack, fumble, and negative. Yeah, so it is kind of the eye test too, but matches what I see where he does mitigate risk. He plays the quarterback position in a way that, generally speaking, is not putting the ball in harm's way. And I know sometimes he looks clunky and awkward doing it, but there's, any other quarterback back there with some of the pass protection that Seattle's low-key had, which has been low-key bad, it would look a lot worse. Now, interesting how Gino's interception percentage compared to like the rest of the top 10, well, Kenny Pickett's there, but 4.7% really stands out compared to the rest of the top 5, say, where the next highest is Joe Burrow with 3.2% interception percentage. Again, I think that matches the eye test, and remember also how many receivers and tight ends as well, have run the wrong route over multiple games. That's happened. I asked Pete Carroll about it. He's mentioned about how receivers had missed practice. He mentioned how the young players, the old players, needs to get around the young players and support them. But ultimately, they've been poor at it for whatever reason. Even in that game against Washington, Noah Fant running the wrong route. So that's part of that. I think also Gino does at times. We've seen it, especially this year, trying to overdo it, try too hard. Something he's kind of admitted and owned up to himself. But the sack percentage at 1.6%, that massively shows up. He really gets the ball out generally within his pass. He plays within his pass protection. He's not seeing ghosts. He's a very, very good in the pocket and excellent pocket behavior. And then the fumble percentage, which had been a concern around Gino, 0.8%. So I think this is super encouraging. And, I know what the touchdown to interception ratio is. I know that we've had a lot of turnovers. I would suggest that, off the back of this, but off the back of the tape as well, Seattle's due for some positive regression in this area. Touch wood and everything. Hopefully the worst stuff is behind them. Now, the other data I wanted to talk about with the offense is their third down percentage. So, Seattle is still abysmal on third down. They are at 31.48% in 2023. And in their last 3 games, and obviously they've played 2 amazing defenses, they're 23.68%, which is even worse and is 30th in the league. If we look at 2023, or second worst in the league, I should say. And then on 2023, they're the 30th team, so the third worst. Abysmal. Now, before I get to the Passover expected, this is a great website, rbsdm.com, from Ben Baldwin, I believe. And I think this third down problem, which we'll get to as well, but this third down problem does show up in other data too. So if we look at EPA and CPOE composite, so a combination of those scores, expected points added and completion percentage over expectation, Geno Smith on the season is 15th in the league, just behind Sam Howell, just ahead of Joe Burrow, which is interesting, and Trevor Lawrence, so interesting context. If you look at his EPA per play, Geno Smith is 19th in the league. If you look at his success rate, Geno Smith is 9th in the league, and that's on all of the downs. Now, watch what happens when I remove third down and fourth down. Hopefully this loads. It was working absolutely fine earlier. There we go. Right. Geno Smith, EPA and CPOE composite on early down, so no third down, no fourth down, is 4th best quarterback in the league. His EPA per play, he is the 6th best quarterback. His success rate, he is the 3rd best quarterback. On third down only, this is scary. Well, I didn't like that, did it? Let me just illustrate this point again with just looking at the whole offense. So Seattle's passing offense, their drop, and remember Drew Lock did come in for that drive against that team, the Giants, right, and scored a touchdown. But I mean, just factor that in. But in drop back EPA per play on the season, Seattle is 14th in the league. Their drop back success rate, they are 6th best in the league on all the downs. But on just first and second down, those numbers, again, are so much better. Their EPA per play, their drop back EPA goes to 3rd best in the league, and their dropback success rate goes to second best in the league. So third down is a big issue in just picking up third downs, and that's, goes hand in hand with the fact that they are, their advanced efficiency stuff, it just falls off a cliff on third down. Now, why is that? Well, partially it's because Seattle, Geno has to play better. Of course, that's part of the reason in those situations. But it's a harder situation, isn't it? Because generally speaking, in a third down spot, the defense knows that you are passing. 3rd and 3+ in the NFL has become like a clear passing down. And I think you have more clear tendencies, and it requires people to execute. So not only is it harder for Geno Smith as the quarterback and more imperative that he executes, it becomes harder for the offensive line. It becomes harder for the wide receivers. It becomes harder for the play caller, Shane Waldron. It becomes more difficult for everyone. And, I covered the third down thing on in the post-game show on Sunday. The problem on the third downs, and there was 10 that Seattle didn't pick up, they went 4 of 14 off third down, so way below 50%, still a crap number, if we're honest. I put about one and a half of them on Geno Smith's shoulders. The rest are just other dudes not being open, not executing, the pass protection being a limiting factor. A lot of the times Geno is not in a good spot, and it's like I said, as we looked at him avoiding the negative plays, and Jordan points out about penalties as well. I need to look at that, Jordan, but you're right, negative plays from penalties have killed this team. But a lot of the times I'm seeing on tape, Geno's kind of getting the best out of the situation that he can. Like, there's not much more there. Unless you had like a complete, one of these unbelievable new gen, well, not even new gen, just like top of the game quarterbacks like a Patrick Mahomes, which no one has him except the Chiefs. Good luck. So what changed on the last 2 drives in the game? Because Seattle had been stalling. They hit that explosive to Kenneth Walker, didn't they? Let me go back a bit. 1 second, chat. Well, primarily what changed for me is the first read for Geno tended to be open, and that is always going to help a quarterback, isn't it? It's going to help a pass protection because they don't have to pass protect for so long, but it's also going to help your and it means that Geno doesn't have to progress to the next available guy. He what he sees is there, and so it's more simple than that. Let me just get to the chat. John, thank you so much for the donation. That's very kind. I'm glad that you're enjoying, and I appreciate your support. I know you've been around for a while. Right, so here, multiple tight ends. We'll just cycle through the drives and see what we see. And I'll kind of pause it to make some points around Geno. Is that a penalty on Seattle? It is, isn't it? False start. So Jordan mentioned the penalties. 1st and 15. Multiple tight ends here. Nice pop pass. This is a design that Seattle's used with the multiple tight ends in the past, where they arc release them. They leave this end unblocked, and it's basically saying, hey, Tyler Lockett, can you outrun at the end? Which he does. And then you can block up nicely. You get some really nice angles. Here it's like a cover 2. You get like a nice kind of hole in between as they block. Now, this is awesome ball handling from Geno Smith here. Watch how easy he makes that look. Perfect. And good timing as well, because that's not easy to get this timing right. Really, I think on these times of shotgun fly sweeps, this guy is setting the tempo of when he gets the snap. He kind of has to judge when he needs to speed up and what speed he approaches, otherwise he'll run past the ball. But that's a nice play on 1st and 15, isn't it, to get yourself out of a hole. Here, similar concept, but tossing to the running back. The arc release of the 2 tight ends, multiple tight ends again. Oh, 51 gets in a bad spot here. Yikes. So, really 2 solid toss sweep runs. Now, this is Geno's best throw of the game. And this is, I wonder how many companies would chart this as interceptable. Just because it's lofted over a zone defender. Kind of an interesting concept where it's dressed up to look like this guy, Metcalf's running a post and Lockett's going to run that kind of route behind the second level. It's a very tough concept for them to cover because this guy is thinking he needs to expand for the flat route. This guy's thinking I need to get depth on Tyler Lockett, or he might be a quarter player. I think he's deep half. But essentially it's in the curl, but they're all thinking with the flow of the backfield here, they're all thinking the ball's going, they're thinking the route's going like this. So you'll notice he sticks his foot in the ground and works back for that type of thing. This curl defender is probably thinking Lockett's going to keep going over. And this is just beautiful loft from Geno. Excellent touch. I remember watching this live and thinking, there's a lot of space here if Tyler turns upfield, and he did his thing. But good play fake after 2 successful runs. I mean, look at this. Fantastic. Right into the zone hole of like the cover 2 type of concept. Let's have a look at it from this angle. Jay, I see you're saying about the end zone shot. I mean, this is pretty good, huh? Okay, so now we're in 11 personnel. Fake well, not fake, but fly motion after you've already handed it off to Lockett. Then try the mid-zone run. Really well blocked. Really cool. That's a cool adjustment, isn't it? To block down here and then wrap her up over here. Watch how the center and left guard handle that. That's high-level stuff from Lewis and Austin Blythe. Wow. Evan Brown. High level. It's a shame Brown couldn't kick this guy out. Otherwise, it's going for really big yardage. Just tough. And Jen, good point on Jason Peters. That I didn't come at his run blocking, but that's an impressive cut-off angle. On a 3 technique, on run away, that's difficult. Hey, OG3, I see you in the chat. Watch it. The heckling has begun. Well, that run didn't work. Oh, so that's tough. So this looks like a 3 tech. So they're expecting him to play up in the B. This is a high level play. I don't know if this is designed, but he's just making a play. That's pretty nuts. There's Jason Peters just getting swimmed. He thinks he's got a down block angle on this guy. Because they're trying to run power, I think. Yeah. So they're trying to climb up here. Oh, why has it gone translucent? Because I clicked the wrong thing. Yeah, they're trying to block here, seal, and then block up here, pull around to kick this guy out and create an alley in this space here for Walker to follow the pull around into. But this is a really good play from Deron Payne. 3rd and 3. Condensed formation. Here's JSN. Similar kind of fly motion. This plays dead on arrival. The whole idea is that they know they're getting a type of man coverage, so they're just going to throw it to Fant in the flat, with this being traffic and eye candy to create the 3-yard space out into the flat here. But you'll see that there's not enough traffic. Like, this guy doesn't have any issues. It's not the best play to have run against. I mean, it's cover 0, but it's not the... Like, this guy has no traffic to navigate at all. And Jen, that's what I'm saying about 3rd and 3 in the NFL. You're mentioning how it's shotgun, and I guess your implication there, Jen, is that you think that's a clear pass tell. Well, it definitely is when the running back is aligned like this. At least if the back was here, you could fake the run. But that kind of split is very obvious run, isn't it? Very obvious pass, sorry, especially for Seattle's offense. How they're all kind of what their tendencies are, right? But yeah, this dump off. I mean, I guess the idea is that there's still a lot of yards for him to have to run to, but maybe they just didn't expect full on 0. But yeah, that's just a difficult thing off the back foot. It means it takes a while to get there. Jay, the receivers are so tight to the line. You mean like the condensed spacing? Well, there's a few reasons. So firstly, you can quickly fly sweep. It means it hits quicker. It means you can get all these guys tight to the line of scrimmage to then maximize the room out into the flat that they want to hit. It means you're more likely to get these guys running into each other, which they don't do. But yeah. Essentially, it hits quicker. There's more space outside. You hope that this guy runs into someone, but he didn't. Not a silly question. But yeah, this is a crap play for Seattle. So then 4th and 3. Now, Washington is like, well, we ran cover 0 there. Bet you don't think we'll do it again. And they do. They had a really good kind of cover 0 plan. Well, it's really good because it worked, which that does help, doesn't it? But they kind of had Seattle's number with this. So Gino knows he's getting one-on-one coverage out here. Okay? This is a big-ass edge rusher. This guy's tight. This guy's tight. This safety's in the middle. He knows he's getting one-on-one. So he tries to let his receiver make a play. And I tweeted live, you know what DK Metcalf's route tree is in different situations. In 4th and 3 or 4th and 4, whatever it is, you know he's running a slant or potentially, I mean, he doesn't really run an out, but potentially it could be that. But you know he's running probably an in-breaker at the sticks. How many times have we seen him run an out route? It's not often. Anyway, This corner knows that too. Gino decides to try and give him the one-on-one. Clutches the ball because of this break. I think if he throws this ball on time, I think it gets broken up and then Seattle's in a problem. But because he clutches the ball, the contact's early, he draws the flag. Now, Gino definitely didn't think he was getting the flag. He's hopping around. He's disappointed. Could the ball be more catchable? He does throw it slightly high, but like DK gets a hand on it. Ultimately, the decision to clutch is probably a good one. And it draws the flag. Now, I hear this is actually, on this side of the field, this is more like a zone kind of beta, I'd say, on this side. But there's well, no, it's not. There's a good kind of pick here. This guy is man on the 3, so this is a route where it would be wide-ass open. But ultimately, Gino is deciding to target that Seattle's... is DK the highest paid player on the team? He's certainly up there, isn't he? This is your number 1. This is the guy you're trusting in when you absolutely have to make a play. If Gino had clutched and tried to come back here, to me, that's just a mistake, like perhaps the ones he's made earlier in the season where he's trying too hard or he's just not getting... Honestly, hasn't done... He's rarely done this, but he gets sacked if he tries to go out here. The whole point of the cover 0 is it's forcing the ball out on time. And even with this end dropping out, there is a window and Gino does kind of find it. But look, if he clutched here and then tried to work back, there's all these bodies. This guy's getting good movement. He's getting sacked. And Jay, it was a ticky-tacky call, but I think it's with how they called other stuff in the game, like that deep post that Gino had to Tyler Lockett, where the receiver, the defensive back hooked the back of his shoulder pad and then broke the pass up. That was more of a PI than this, I think. But ultimately, that's what happens. Multiple tight ends back on the field again. Oh, and this is where it looked like they were imploding. Okay, so here, this is another multiple tight end play. Gino knows he's getting a form of zone coverage because there's 2 tight ends out here. There's a corner here. You wouldn't play a corner on a tight end if it was man-to-man, generally. And also just the contours of the defense. The fact there's a corner and a corner. It says zone. So they're running mesh wheel. So you could, in theory, target Kenneth Walker. But to me, this is Gino taking what's there, not taking unnecessary risks, just playing within the structure of the play. So at the point he could decide to throw this football to Walker, this guy is inside and on top. This corner hasn't fully gone over. He's still on the number. He could probably peel back. Remember that pick he threw to Jackson Smith in Jigba in Cincinnati? This is kind of similar to me in that it's a wheel and there's an in-breaking route. You could try and force that, or you could try and hold on to then throw it, but then you go incomplete and okay, it'd be 2nd and 5. Instead, Gino just goes, nope, don't like that. Let's move on in structure. I know I'm getting zone coverage. I know that they've pressured the... Who did they pressure? 1 second. They've just pressured all 5 guys down at the line of scrimmage. I know that there's going to be a void here or a void here or a void here. Let's just not throw this, which is like the wheel route's the alert, so the first thing he looks at. Let's just move off that and find my shallow route, which he does in the hole of the coverage where this 5th rusher came from. There's a hole here. This guy's covering over here. He reads his alert, doesn't force anything, checks it down. Now, Walker kind of got open. Well, he did get open, didn't he? But ultimately, within the structure of the play, he wasn't open at the time. And Gino just stays within the structure of the play, goes to Lockett. Really good gainer. Really effective. This is kind of what I mean by everything being open within the structure of the play, within the timing, and Gino reading it out. The first read stuff happens on the next drive. Here, 3 tight ends now. duo, and Walker bouncing out, as he likes to do. Another penalty. They got the face mask, didn't they, which helps. Then a bit of Walker Wildcat. Oh, they almost had that. Oh, that's just... If Parkinson had not felt the need to help here, which like he kind of has to, because otherwise this could become a problem. But if he'd just looped up, this would have been very, very interesting. If he'd gone up here immediately. But that's not his rule. If there's a flash of colour out there, he has to try and secure it, and he can't quite get out there. And then this sprint out play, which again is kind of a one-read play. It's not. Like, if Lockett's completely blanketed, there's this over route back here, which, you know, against certain coverages could get targeted. They last tried this against Cincinnati, and Tyler Lockett was in the slot, and he tried to bend it back inside, and there was a rusher, which I think was Hubbard, who got right up in the lane, so Gino couldn't pull up and throw it. He had to keep going outside, and there was nothing here. But on this play, Lockett's outside, runs a brilliant route, sells vertical, receiver's thinking back shoulder fade, so he's kind of working in this pocket, and Lockett ends up breaking it just to that spot, and Gino throws it to only where Lockett can get the football. Precise, like, this is so many... They must have run this so many times to have this understanding. Like, the amount of reps this sort of thing takes is... Yeah, the NFL's crazy. But perfect play. Great execution. Lockett making it look like a kind of back shoulder fade, and then maybe even a front shoulder back corner of the pylon. DB's in catch-up mode, and he didn't expect that type of break. Because there's not much space. Like, the DB's taken away a lot of that kind of red zone area, but not quite enough. So that's the penultimate drive. Now here's the field goal drive. Now this is where everything's kind of open. So process-wise, first play, and this is something we've seen Gino do before, slightly concerning. I don't know why he clutches here. Probably not wanting to throw a pick. But I don't know why he clutches here. Sees that it's too high rotation. It's cover 4 on this side of the field. It's cover 2 on this side of the field. Sees it's too high. I guess it's because Fant hadn't turned around. But I think timing-wise, with the chip of Fant, I think Gino expected Fant to be open earlier. But that's open. And yeah, there's a flash of color here, maybe worrying about hands going up, but really that's something Gino would do in his sleep usually. So anyway, comes back to his check down, which is nice to see the back actually being a check down. A lot of the times where Gino gets sacked or really bad things happen, this is anecdotal, I should probably actually look it up, but it feels like the back is released immediately, and so there's no check down and there's no like real short routes. But here the back checks that this guy or this guy's not coming, and then releases out on a pattern, which means Gino, while not throwing this football, he has a clear check down. Good job improvising towards the sideline. And Charbonnet, he needs to stay in bounds, doesn't he? He just loves running people over because he's a maniac. Okay, now, so slight urgency for Seattle. They had to take a timeout. 38 seconds left, 2nd and 7. Now, what does this shift do? Okay, so aligning Tyler Lockett over here in a trips slot formation. So this is the tight end, nub formation. This is a cornerback out here. So again, Gino knows he's getting some form of zone coverage. It's also trying to undress whether these two are both blitzing or not, because it's a overload line to Seattle's right. and then a back and a backer here, and then a edge here. Further trying to undress who is actually in coverage here by flaring the back out. Beautiful read from Gino here. And, you know, you could be over pressing here, trying to force this football down the field. Ultimately, it's a Hank concept. So curl, over the ball, curl. The read is this flat defender here. If the flat defender jumps out down here, then you throw it in here. But the flat defender doesn't jump out. Look at this defender. He stays tight to lock it. Gino is reading here first. There's nothing here. He reads out here. The flat defender's deep. Checks it down. Easy yardage. Charbonnet gets out of bounds this time. And if you think about all of the good drives that quarterbacks have to win games, there's a common theme of, well, it tends to be a common theme. Again, another anecdotal thing. But they're not forcing the football down the field immediately. You need a big play at some point, but there's nothing wrong with just taking the check down, staying ahead of the chain, not having a negative play. And 3rd and 4, one of Seattle's 4 third down conversions arrives. So again, Washington is showing single high safety. Gino one-on-one over here. It looks like 2 backers, same kind of strong overload front from Washington. Looks like man coverage. Looks like DK Metcalf's one-on-one. Just as he did in that 4th down on the previous drive, he's going to DK Metcalf. And he knows that the whole time, but I think he just checks over here, checks that he's got the single high safety, maybe has a glance to see if he's getting man or zone, because it is actually I don't even know what that is. I mean, it's a pressure concept. It's like 2 deep, 3 under. It's like a fire zone, but yeah. Point being, a clear one-on-one. And a great throw to DK Metcalf. Now, I watched this and was like, okay, DK, look at this outside release slant route. This is nice. I would need to go back and watch DK to see him pop that out before. Don't remember like a diamond slant route like that before. Playing basketball out there. And perfect timing. And Jay, yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, I should have clarified that if I didn't. Sorry. Yeah, Gino's looking over here just to also hold this safety from making a hero play. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we'll look at the end zone to see where his eyes are. But yeah, absolutely, Jay, that's correct. Thank you so much, Duck on Quack, for the donation. I mean, I don't think I am better than the others, but you said it, so thank you very much. So, yeah, you can see Jay, he just has that quick look at the safety, waits for DK. I mean, that is perfect timing, right in his path. Good job, GK. Good job, GK. Good job, DK, snagging that one. Then we have some cold coffee. Brilliant. So a double slant concept here. So chat, let me know, why do you think DK is so upset with himself after this play? I would be curious for your thoughts. I think maybe he feels he drifted a bit into that and kind of made that an easier pass breakup. I mean, he's got a kind of outside slant, like almost choice route on the outside, but yeah, I think he ran that a bit poorly. But again, Gino's kind of seeing that that's a one-on-one basically, and to throw it. This is almost like... Nah, Jack, I don't think we can call that PI. There is a little hook to get into the position with the left arm, but I don't think they call that. Anyway. So, interesting coverage from Washington here, where to me, like it plays out like two-man, doesn't it? But really, it's kind of cover 2, cover 4, kind of matching up. Whereas he could have been in the middle hole. He instead is like hug rushing on the running back. So running back stays into pass protect. He pass rushes. But he ends up peeling off that into coverage. Yeah, he may have run this deeper. I mean, he doesn't want to run in the exact same window as JSN, but that he may have run that too deep, especially with where Gino tries to throw that football. It's just a slightly odd route, isn't it? And KGK, I see you're saying the throw seems bad. It does look bad, like in terms of positioning, but I think that may be a DK issue, and I think that's why he was annoyed with himself. But it's interesting to get your thoughts on it. Anyway, so I mentioned that inside backer for a reason, because watch this inside backer here. He starts on a rush, then peels off. Washington on the back end is playing... Is this his cover 4? No. So it's like the cover 2 side of the coverage is here. Curl. The cover 4 side is over here. With this guy rushing, but if the back releases, peeling off, as we saw on the previous play. What does that mean? Well, there's a big space in the middle of the field, kind of taking us back to what we saw with Seattle when they were on defense at the start of the show. So, as Gino drops back, he just checks over here, I think, to hold, check that this safety's staying high. This is a bow and arrow concept. So, idea being, this guy's going to run a corner. This guy's going to run a hitch. The purpose being to suck up this defender and this defender to then create the window here beneath the half safety. This guy's going to run a swing to try and expand this cloud out here to then create more room. So let me just draw that up again. So this guy expands out with that. This route here sucks up this player here. This route here is into the space. So the idea being... Oh, why did I do that? Hold on. The idea being that if this guy gets more depth, then you can ping it into this zone window here. But also this, if they played like man, then this guy would be able to break back against the grain out here. But essentially this is a cheese route against zone, and this is it's like a smash route out here. But what you can also do, and why this arrow concept is twinned with this thing called bow, is because say that they are a team who will, with the fast 3, it's 2x2 remember, with the fast 3, say they're a team who will push this guy out to the flat like that, well then that creates a void here, so it makes sense to twin it with, or pair it with a dig route to the backside, so that the quarterback can read out here. If he doesn't like what he sees, he can then ping it right into that hole there. Which I think Gino knows that this backer's going to play it like this anyway, so he knows he wants the dig. Same hitch route, or I forget what it's called. I think it's called an arrow route, confusingly. I wrote an article on it. I wish I could post links in the chat. Can I? Tell you what. 1 second. That's not going to work well because I don't have a... Let me know if that works. I don't know if links work in the chat or not, because it goes weird, but... Let me just try... this. Tw 2022 preseason. It would be good if the tweets loaded. I have to use a VPN to access certain American websites now. I don't know why the tweet... here we go. So Corbin, at the time, who was my site editor, he was at training camp, and the Seahawks forgot, when the reporters were there, they forgot to remove this whiteboard which said 300 scat arrow bow on it. And via that, like the sicko I am, I pieced together this, which is this is actually Kyle Shanahan 2018. That's pass protection, so ignore that. Whatever you do as well, if you're ever on Twitter, don't search scat. Just don't do it. I found out the hard way. This is bow. So you can see, let me just zoom this in a bit more. Jay, there's a lot of, I mean, I don't want to shame anyone, but it's bad. I didn't realize how bad. I wish, why can't I zoom that? Perfect. So this is the bow thing with the arrow route. So you see that little hitch and then the dig route at 12 to 14 yards. And then that is not... Let me go to... This could be good. And I believe this is them running it in the 2022... Jen, don't do it. Jen, do not do it. I'm trying to help you. Well, it could be your thing, but I don't think so, Jen. And then here we go. Them running it in the preseason. Gino opening to the arrow side of the concept. Not there. Comes backside. His Penny Hart catching the dig route. Compare and contrast. Washington's playing with a good... the aggressive Mike, but similar type of deal. And that got Seattle and Mark Sanchez very excited, didn't it? Let me just find what the coaching point is for Arrow. There's Corbin. Yeah, so that in-breaking hitch route is run at 4 to 6 yards and has the option to widen back to the field if a second-level defender is covering the route tight into the inside. So if they're really kind of matching it or just playing man-to-man. Right. And that's how Seattle won the game. But you'll notice on that last drive, there was a lot of kind of easy throws. So great work from Shane Waldron. But also, you know, it meant the pass pro wasn't in too much stress. And Washington does not have the type of premier edge rushers, do they? They traded them. And Jerome Payne and Jonathan Allen, they caused their issues. A team who also doesn't have premier edge rushers is the Los Angeles Rams. And they do have Aaron Donald, don't they? And Byron Young has 5 sacks. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. I've really enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments how this format can be improved, if it is good. If I spent, should I do offense first and then defense? Is the defense too much info or boring? Like, I want this to be engaging and entertaining before the kind of informative part of it. I've enjoyed it. I will also be live tomorrow night interviewing a guest to look at the Rams game this Sunday. Is it week 10? Is it week 10? I think it's week 11, isn't it? That's bloody terrifying. How is it week 11 already? But yeah, the Rams have lost 3 games in a row. They are not looking too hot right now, except Matthew Stafford is back and Sean McVay does disgusting things to Seattle. So I'm really hoping that this is the moment that Seattle stays on top and doesn't kills off the Rams. That would be 4 losses in a row. That would be, hey, Stafford, are you okay? Or maybe we could put in Carson Wentz. That would be fun. They're paying the price for going all in, I would say. But I'll have to ask my special guest about that. They're a Rams fan. They work for a big national company. If you join live, I'll try and get a question of the chat asked or two. Jen, you hope McVay is sleep deprived. Let's be nice. No one would want to be sleep deprived. It's 4 a.m. here. Yeah. I'll also have a video out on Leonard Williams, who is playing really well. And I might turn tonight I wanted to turn it into a Geno Smith video. But I'll do an introduction for that as well. And feedback always welcome. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, tell a friend about it. Like, hey, there's this weird British dude who covers the Seahawks. Maybe you could watch his videos. Follow Griff at C Mike Spin Move. Follow Ty at Dane Gunzelers. Jack, how tall are you, Matty? Well, Jack, if you'd listened to the Mark Schofield episode, Mark is a great guy and gave me my start in the industry. But also, Jack, he provided irrefutable proof that I am 5'10". Absolutely no doubt. But then I was thinking the other day, like, it's kind of messed up how a lot of people just round up to 6 foot, don't they? Not that I'm rounding up, by the way. I'm not rounding up. But a lot of people say they're 6 foot when they're not. I'm 5'10", and I definitely am. And Mark Schofield provided like completely independent proof. But there you go. 50-11. Just chill out, okay? I see you, and that's a problem. That's a problem. You're lucky you're not. It's the end of the show and I'm in a good mood. Because otherwise, yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow night, hopefully. And I need to catch up with this Bengals-Ravens game. But thank you so much for spending your night, evening with me. You said it was a non-issue, 50-11. Fats, thank you. Fats, we could go. We could make it into a live stream. I feel like if I streamed for 4 hours, I think people might, like the NFL might get annoyed. Oh dear. Right, thank you everyone. Have a good rest of your evening. Goodbye.